Alright, hello everyone, and thank you for coming to the Artosis Hour number 5. Look at that, 5 shows right in a row. I will be doing one tomorrow as well in the morning, but then going to MLG, so make sure you tune in for that. But today is a day for Zerg players mostly. I'm going to be going over Liquid Ret's new replay pack, as many replays as I can get in about an hour. So I hope you all enjoy that quite a bit. Of course, I'll be looking at both sides of the matchup and just trying to, go over everything. So let's go ahead and get this started. This is from Rhett's replay pack. Let's take a look at these players. We're going to have State, an up-and-coming Protoss from USA. He's done well, even though he's not a big name. He's gotten deep in a lot of smaller tournaments over in the US scene. And of course, Liquid Ret right here. So we're going to go ahead and assume that this is played on the North American server, because Say is from the North American server. But, I mean, that's probably the way it is, because he's not even in TQ, so that has to be his old ID. Anyways, let's go ahead and get this started. It is Antigua Shipyard. It is a ZVP. And, 1 second, guys. I'm going to make sure that everything's working fine before I go over everything. Alright, let's go ahead and speed this up and take a look at it. Well, looks like State going to go ahead for a Forge Fast expansion, which, I mean, very standard, very normal. It's basically what you're going to want to do. It's interesting that he chose to do it at the choke. It's a little bit easier to do at the choke, I feel. And can be a little bit better against cheeses, but you get a little bit more economy. It's a little bit quicker to do it at the actual Nexus. Both are very valid choices, but anyways, some pretty good probe harassment here. Rhett just going for a very standard build, no gas. Right now, if I'm the Protoss player, what I'm thinking is that he is absolutely going to be going for 2 expansions right in a row here. And in fact, I'm surprised that he hasn't sent a drone down to try to take that base, but he's making some lings and a queen, so just pretty standard. He's not going to allow any pylon or anything like that. The drone coming down, I wonder, is this drone to scout? Is he just chasing him away? He does have a lot of minerals. Probably will end up pulling this drone back to go ahead and expand with. I don't know why he would drone scout right at this moment. Also, if we take a look, he hasn't found him yet. He did send his first overlord this way, which is an interesting choice as well, because of course you can go right into the back of a base if you send it the other way, but his second one going this way, and it's a little bit closer by air, so it makes sense. That means he scouts 2 bases very, very quickly, as instead of 1 super quickly, and then another quite a bit later. So go ahead and keep looking at this. Alright, so pretty standard walling so far. The second pylon, that's normally where you want to put it. There's a couple ways you can put your pylons here. You either put 1 pylon there, and then 1 pylon over here, or you put 1 in the middle and then 1 over to the side. That's really the only way to cover this. 1 pylon doesn't cover all the area in here. Let's go ahead and take a look. What is Rhett doing here? Still no gas, so definitely looks like he's going to be taking a super fast 3rd base here. And, well, nothing quite yet. We'll just keep it fast forwarding a little bit until we find what's going on. Anything interesting, that's what I'm looking for. I do want to talk about this just for a second here. The creep tumor right in the main base to start, that's actually how Zerg should be doing it. There's a lot of Zergs that don't do it. There are so many pro-level, top-level Zergs that actually never spread creep between their main and their natural, and that's just, it's stupid. You really need to do that. It's super important. For instance, if State goes for a lot of Void Rays or something, this is going to be crucial that he actually has creep in between so his queens can actually quickly move around. There's actually, Zergs are losing games all the time, or have in the past at least, where there's no creep here, and then, the queens just can't get up and down the ramp quick enough. So very nice to see Rhett adapting and taking that style where you throw that creep tumor down right away. Still no gas, going to be very, very late on the gas, and there we go. Certainly that's going to be for an expansion, I would say. This is the ladder, so we do have gold minerals still in this map. We'll see if that comes into play. For our Protoss player, very quick +1 here. Let's see if Rhett has actually scouted that the +1 has started. Nope, he does not know that +1 has started. Now, that's something that you should scout as Zerg. You should send another Zergling up, even if it's going to die to the cannon, just to see, is +1 going to start, especially in these positions. If I'm playing this position against someone that's going 3-hatch, you bet your bottom dollar a pylon is going right there, and I am warping in +1 zealots to try to take out this base, or at least harass it. So that's definitely going to be something that Rhett wants to check on this game. So very standard, Rhett throwing up a bunch of gas after taking that third base. The drone count, nice and high. He's already hitting the Protoss drone, probe count, which is nice because, of course, Protoss is chrono boosting probes basically non-stop in the early game. Maybe throwing a few on his +1 as well. And moving out with the 2 zealots, very smart. Rhett has lings in the vicinity. He sees what's going on, so he doesn't have to make any units to the last second. Notice he's producing only drones. Well, he's going to go ahead and make a round of lings here, no doubt, because he has to deal with these 2 zealots. He can't let them deal too much damage to the hatchery, or there's a chance of losing it later. And there we go, 6 lings in production for Rhett, 10 now. And yeah, that's about what he's going to actually end up needing. That +1 is not quite done, so I'll be interested to see what State does with these zealots. Is he actually just going to mic them as best he can and kill what he can? Or is he going to, see how many lings there are and try to get away? Both are reasonably valid. If you do get away with them, you have 2 more zealots with your next big attack when you do have +1. If you do down the ling count, they're going to have to think, do I make some more lings right now? Or do I, keep droning up and try to make them at the last second? Also notice he does have an Overlord over in this area, a great area to have an Overlord. He did end up losing those Zealots, just kind of attacked him in. That's fine, not a huge deal. And let's see, there we go. Okay, so State adding 4 gates and a Twilight. Okay, so the Twilight is likely going to be for +2 and Blink. We'll probably see a big bust attempt on the third base, and in these positions I think that's a completely valid and great choice to go with. Timing attacks, basically Protoss breaks down into 2 pieces against Zerg if they go for a quick third base, like a really quick one. Either you go ahead and hit a strong 2 base to kill their third, or you take a quick third. And by what it looks like here, most likely it's going to be killing the third, but you can go up to 5 gates, pressure, get more upgrades with something like a Twilight and the Forge getting +2, and then go into another base. So we'll have to see exactly what it is, and Rhett has to read it right, because if he thinks it's some sort of all-in on his third and it's not, then he's going to have a lot of roaches that State is ready for and can defend against pretty easily. So Roach Warren going up with pretty good timing. We have speed on the way. Still only 2 gases, which is good. He doesn't want to overmine gas right now. He doesn't need a lot of it for any roaches. In fact, he already has 200 gas, and I mean that's going to be plenty to make roaches with. Even getting his lair now, just droning up like a madman. Look at that, already 57 drones, and it's spread amongst 3 bases. So even though the probe count's still pretty good at 44, now 59 drones, that is spread over so many mineral patches that is just even better. Because if you look at this, well, this is very well saturated, and this is as well. So we'll probably see a slowdown in probe production if he's not going to take a third base. That's the way you're going to want to do it. Basically, you have as good saturation as you need for your attack when you get approximately 2 probes per patch, maybe an additional 1 or 2, just to shore up some of the weird AI of the probes. And of course, you have to pull them off to build stuff. So, that's probably a good way to tell if someone's going to be going for the expansion or for the pressure. You want to save that extra money. Those extra probes only give a very small amount of extra minerals per minute, which is good and important, but you don't need the extra ones because you're not going to transfer them or anything like that. You may as well have more money earlier on to make your attack quicker and more powerful. So we have a ton of gases going up for Rhett. A couple evolution chambers. I like it. He's powering up very well. His creep spread hasn't been the best. As we remember, he got this very early on, and it's only down to here. It definitely could be a bit further out, which would be nice. Let's take a look at what State's doing exactly here. Looks like he's going to just go ahead and remove a pylon out here. He definitely should put a pylon here if he's going to do any sort of pressure harassment. Notice that we don't have any zealots yet. That's very interesting. Does look like he's thinking about taking that third base. And I'm actually really interested that he didn't make any zealots. When that +1 finishes, that's normally right before they have any roaches out, or any roaches in any real number. And in fact, that was the case. Look at now. The first batch of roaches are coming up right now. So he has 2 roaches only, and then some more are going to finish up pretty soon. But +2 is almost halfway done. And even with Chrono Boost, that means that there was a period of time where with 5 warp gates, State may have been able to do some Zealot pressuring. And if you can even force, a bunch of Lings, kill a queen, kill a few drones, force some lost mining time, that's going to hurt their economy quite a bit. So I'm a little bit surprised he didn't put any pressure on whatsoever. And it looks like he does want to go ahead and take that 3rd base. In the meantime, Rhett is taking both upgrades. Very nice. He's getting his roach speed. I like it as well. But we don't have any burrow yet. Now, in burrow, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's miss. In this particular game, let's take a look at what Rhett can actually see. What has he actually seen? Okay, so he has seen everything that he has. He doesn't know that. Of course, something else could have come up. But against just a Twilight, if you do choose to get burrow, that can be pretty useful. Obviously there's a lot of sentries here. But if they go slow on the Robo, that's going to allow them to get out even more Stalkers. And without burrow, that's going to be a little bit hard. Because how do you punish someone who doesn't have an Observer? Well, with Zerg, burrow is really one of the only ways you can do it. Not saying that he necessarily has to get it. It is 100 gas and takes a while to make, but it's a good choice. And in fact, he does start it right now. Just wanted to get his roach speed up a little bit quicker, which is pretty smart as well. So we'll have to see if State actually does end up doing any big attacks. As soon as burrow starts to occur, he's going to have to be very careful not to walk his sentries over where the burrowed roaches are, because that could be deadly. Ooh, this is interesting to me. Where is it? A Hydralisk den going up. That is, of course, Hydralisk very underused in this matchup. But I kind of like this. These are somewhat slow spots. And, in fact, State right now is showing that he really wants to stay heavily Blink Stalker. That +2. Almost done. He's already got the Blink done. He hasn't really shown that he wants to switch into Robo or anything like that yet. So there might be a timing in here where Rhett can move down with a lot of roaches and hydras and possibly, either take out a bunch of sentries, maybe even make the 3rd die. So we'll have to see exactly what he wants to do with that. Right now, Hydralisk Cavern, it's a little bit popular on the Korean server. It's gained some traction against the huge amount of Stargate builds that are out there, but you don't see it against something like this all that often. So I have to see. Go ahead and fast forward this a little bit. See exactly what Red's plans are. He is in fact getting Hydra range. Still macroing up those roaches. Everything he's doing right now is very gas heavy, so it's smart to get the roaches first and let that gas build up a little bit, then make your hydras. Alright, so we're going to have to slow this down a little bit. Now Rhett is moving out with his first little group here. Let's take a look. The Robo has been made, of course. It's a pretty reasonable timing, but he's getting a Warp Prism. I don't think he got an Observer first. Yeah, he didn't. So he's just going to have a Warp Prism to start. And the cool thing about a Warp Prism, and the reason why a lot of people are getting Warp Prism nowadays against Zerg, when they don't open with a Stargate, by the way, you'll notice that when they open with a Stargate, the Warp Prism is going to be much more rare because they're going to have anti-air. But when you open with something like just Blink Stalker, then oftentimes what we're going to see is just a lot of roaches because, why get... Obviously, you're not going to get any Corruptors. That'd be stupid. Mutas... Well, you're against Blink Stalker. They probably have +2. It's not a good timing for Mutas yet. So, getting this right now, this is going to be very strong against something like mass roaches. If he's only making roaches, and by the way, if he was, he'd have a ton more because look how many hydras he's making plus the hydra range, so he'd have a big clump more than this. But against just roaches, you can keep them in their base for a very long time with just a single Warp Prism. And I'm talking you just throw a few sentries in there and you harass the drones a little bit. It's hard for the queen to really deal with it herself. And in fact, sometimes you'll see the Warp Prism go ahead and try to kill the queen. So that keeps roaches at home. But again, Rhett is going hydras here. And so the Warp Prism I don't see as being all that useful yet. And without an observer, these roaches should be alright for now. But of course with Chrono Boost, he can get that out pretty quickly. Let's see what Rhett actually wants to do here. That is a cute cannon right there. Wow. That is just really, really cute. That's just to watch for any burrow type stuff. If they do engage, he's going to want to do it in this area because this splits the roaches in half. So very smart. And in fact, throwing up another one here. This looks like this is a very stylistic thing that State likes to do, but I like it a lot. That's really clever. that buys him time to get that warp prism, to get a much later observer out. And in fact, you see Rhett walked up. Not just the stalker scared him away, but also the cannon. If there's just stalkers, maybe he can try some burrow micro, see if he can pick some units off. But that's just not the case this time. Now let's look at what Rhett is doing. He's getting +2/+2, so he's obviously going to stay on this very heavy layer tech for quite a while, which, you know, it gives you a lot of power in the mid game, but once your opponent starts massing up splash damage, it becomes a lot weaker. This is the style, of course, that people were using like a year ago, where it would be, you know, layer tech, a lot of hydras, a lot of roaches, and then corruptors if they go colossi. And it gives you a very powerful army, but if State can actually look at this and say, oh, okay, he's really not teching up. You don't really have to attack Zerg until they start teching up. And that means going to Hive, because Hive are the units that are really going to put a clock on you, such as Broodlords especially. So basically, let's see what State has actually scouted. He doesn't know exactly what the tech is, not a lot of scouting going on. He didn't get hallucination. His first observer is on the way still, so yeah, it's normal that he doesn't have a lot of intel right now. But when he sees what's going on, it'll be interesting to see if he adapts this, because if he starts trying to get aggressive, Rhett with creep spread and upgraded soon to be 2/2, well, not soon, but you just started, but 2/2 roaches and hydras on the way, he'll be able to crush any attacks that don't contain like a ton of Colossus or Psystorm in them, or like perfect force fields. So where is that warp prism, I wonder? Ah, there it is. Okay. So he's probably going to try to draw some units up here and whatnot, but with the hydras, this should not really work out all that well. We're trying some run-bys. So it's cool what he's trying, but this has been turned into warp prism, you know, pylon mode, whatever. So these hydras may even be able to take it out, which would be just sad. It's not a huge deal though. It's only 200 minerals. Yeah, and that will go down. That might be the last warp prism that we see, unless the game goes super late. You know, against hydras, of course, warp prism is going to be hit and miss. So we have +3 attack on the way for State. Let's take a look at Rhett. He has a ton of units, and they are on the way. 2/2 still on the way. Burrow movement almost done, and that's an interesting thing that he's got there. You know, one thing I would like to see with this army is this Overseer right here. And that's not for Dark Templars. I love to see when Zergs are using a unit composition like this, just to have the Overseer there, because the Observer oftentimes will just fly into the battle. Very few Protosses will actually keep that Observer on a separate hotkey and pull it in when they need it. And of course, it, you know, kind of makes sense. Keep it with your army. That way, if anything does burrow, you can hit it. But if they just take one right click with a few hydras and take out that observer, because the overseer is with them, then suddenly their burrow becomes so powerful, and you have to wait for another observer. You know, that's going to cost gas. It's going to take robo build time, and it might help you to swing a battle in your favor. Let's go ahead and take a look. It looks like Rhett wants to get aggressive with this now, which makes sense because he has not expanded again. Now, State has a good defensive formation. The formation that he has here, notice he has 7 sentries. They have a lot of energy, and he has everything built up around here. So if Rhett attacks, he can attack through this choke, or this choke, or this choke. Now, this choke is going to be one of the harder ones to do just because of all the buildings that are in the way. This choke's pretty bad, so he might do both chokes at once. But of course, that's going to help the force field, the sentries, because instead of having to cast like 30 force fields, he can choose what side he wants to battle on. You know, he can move his army around, and this basically just really helps out. It's very terrain based. So let's take a look at what Rhett wants to do here. Still just making a ton of units. And there the observer does fly in, like I was mentioning before. Of course there is still cannon, but if that all does go down, then suddenly burrow movement and all that does become more powerful. So just to point that out a little bit, let's take a look what Rhett's doing at home during this battle. Rhett definitely one of the players that keeps up his macro during battles better than most. It just looks like he's just macroing up units still. Drone count, 79 against 68 probes, so, you know, still slightly better economy, but really he's going to have to expand very quickly here. But at 200 and units on the way and 2/2 on the way, it looks like he wants to see if he can just out-macro State and kill him. State, only 130 supply. You know, he's being a little bit greedy, getting all of his upgrades so quickly. The +3 is one of the quickest +3s I've ever seen. Taking the 3rd base relatively quickly. Doesn't really have any super tech support units. You know, he doesn't have, of course, any High Templars. You probably wouldn't have those yet with this build anyways. But he has 0 Mortals, and he has 0 Colossi. So basically, he took a bunch of risks to get this quick base, get the quick upgrades, and I love the tech that he's switching into. Notice that he's adding another Robo and his Robotics Bay at the same time. That's really, really intelligent to do if you want to switch over to Colossus, because if you don't start Colossus early on, it's so linear how you have your Colossus. You're popping out one at a time. The first Colossus, maybe you do a poke with, then you have a second one, and suddenly they're starting to counter your Colossus, and you have a third, and they have a bunch of Corruptors or something like that, and you're just like, this isn't working so well. So adding the second one when you're going to go Colossus this late is just brilliant. If Colossus is not your first tech route, this is going to speed up so much. 2 Colossus is more than twice as good as 1 in a situation like this. And of course, just having 2 Robos can be very helpful. For instance, once these Colossus pop out and start shredding up Hydras, Rhett is very likely to switch over and go maybe Corruptors, maybe switch to Mutas, but definitely more Roaches than Hydras. And that's going to allow him to start pumping out Immortals if he wants. So I love that tech switch. And it's interesting that Rhett has chosen to be very aggressive off 3 base this game, as opposed to trying to take more bases, which is a little bit more common in his style. Interesting blink up there. And he has gone ahead and taken out the cannon at this point. Now, where are the observers? We do have one back here, and then we have one up here. I don't know if this is actually moving. It looks like it is. But again, I do wish that Rhett had brought along the Overseer. Can be very helpful. 2-2 is still on the way here. A bunch of Roaches being macroed up for Rhett. I wouldn't be surprised if he stops Hydra's production altogether here. Notice he has 19 already. That's a lot of Hydras to have. You don't want to get them too high because they can't tank any damage. Look at this, only 80 hit points. It's ridiculous. But they deal a ton of damage. So it looks like he just wants to rally in Roaches and have the Hydras dealing a ton of damage behind them and just always keep a layer of Roaches in between, which is a good way to use the Hydra if you're going to use it. He is taking that 4th base, which is so important. And there you go. The Spire is going up. And the timing of the Spire is actually pretty darn good, considering that we have the Robotics Bay and the second Robo going up. In fact, I don't think Rhett scouted that. He just kind of knows the timing when someone's going heavily blink into the 3rd base, it looks like, which is really good, very smart by him. I had to see what that was. But basically, if you look at the timing, as those first 2 Colossus pop out, he's going to have that Spire finishing up, and then he can quickly make however many he needs. If he wants 10 Corruptors, just totally nail those down and then go in for the killing blow. That might be what we end up seeing. Overseer's still just sitting with the Overlords. Some nice force fields. He used 4 to only kill a Roach. I mean, he wanted to get more, but it's the thought that counts sometimes. Alright, that's a little bit better. He used a lot of force fields here, but trapping a few Roaches, that's important. He's just got to whittle down anything he can. Of course, Rhett is never not going to be maxed out. He can easily remax. And in fact, we have +3 attack already for State, which is a pretty big deal, whereas Rhett only has 1-1. But of course, 2-2 is going to finish soon, which is going to give him a little bit of a leg up. It's always funny to watch Broad Roaches move. Alright, so he is really trying to get in now. Now let's take a look at the Sentry energy. Rhett baited out a lot of force fields. Okay, he was dancing back and forth. Yeah, he lost some Roaches. He is rallying more down. He has, in fact, 10 in production on the way. Of course, if those were here, game would look a lot different. But this is an interesting part because these are the sentries he has left. Let's count force fields. We got 2 there, 1 there, 1 there, and 2 there. So we could either, so that's 4, 5, 6. Okay, so we have about 6 force fields total that are possible. He probably wants a Guardian Shield, so that's going to make it 1 or 2 less. And that's going to make it hard to actually defend this army, especially if he chooses all force fields. Rhett may want to use his burrow movement a little bit, let the Hydra deal some damage. Of course, the Roaches have graded increased regeneration when they have the burrow movement upgrade. But his 2-2, it's not quite done yet. The upgrades of State are better. I'm actually interested to see exactly how this battle does turn out here. Alright, those are great force fields right there, and those are 2. That's basically the best he could have done with these force fields, and in fact that leaves him with, I believe he has 1 left, unless he lost the Sentry. Maybe I counted wrong. Anyways, he's done basically as well as he can. He still has the Observer. Once again, I do want to point out that if that Overseer was down here, there is no detection until, let's see, the cannon's here, so it detects up to about there. So, for instance, these roaches that are moving forward, the Observer is a little bit to the side, but he could move these roaches forward a little bit more. Just a little thing to keep in mind. I don't want to harp on it too much, but I feel like it's just this very small thing that can help out a lot. So Rhett's still just trying to do a lot of damage. Now, the sentry count is really falling, which is very nice for Rhett. And in fact, State looks to be in a lot of trouble here. I thought this replay was longer than this. Well, we do have Colossus in production. A lot of Hydras left over. Okay, so now here's the choice. Does he go up this ramp into the third base? Well, there's a lot of cannons. It's a small choke point. He does have Blink with the +3. Lots of detection. Or does he go over here and start pushing a little bit? I like this choice to go over here and start pushing a little bit. Now, why are people messaging me? Why does this happen? Hold on, guys. I don't know how to... Alright, so, you know, he's going to come up here and start targeting things down, most likely. The Forge isn't running, there is a Warp Gate, and of course there's the Core. Probably he'll target that Core down very, very quickly. And while sometimes that's great, right now he has double Robo Colossus in production, so that's going to eat up all of his gas anyways, so it's not a huge deal when you see the Core go down. He can warp it. He's probably going to want to warp in rounds of Zealots just to tank damage anyways, so he can get some more Colossus started. So let's take a look. Yeah, targeting that right down. A nice little flank going on by these Stalkers here. And the Zealots warp in. See, he was going to warp those in anyways because he wanted to get more Colossi out. So it looks like that's the end of that first part of the attack, but more roaches are coming down. Now let's take a look at what Rhett's doing during this time. He is continuing to produce roaches. His supply has dropped quite a bit. It's at 168 as opposed to the 200 he's been at basically all game long. Let's go take a look at his larva counts and his queen energy. So we have 51 energy on this queen. We see no creep tumors around here, so it didn't lay any creep tumors. So it looks like it just missed maybe 2 injects here. He might be about to inject. Rhett is very good at injects, but we have no larva here, and we have no larva here. And 56 energy, 74 energy, 51 energy. Now, if Rhett hit every single inject, this game is probably already over. And that's why, for instance, Nesty recently went on the record saying that the most important thing to practice as Zerg is hitting all your injections. That's something that Zerg players basically can't do yet. No one's really got the multitasking capability. And Rhett is one of the best of them at this particular task. But still, imagine if he had, let's count them once again. That's 2 injects, so that's a bunch. I mean, look at how much more supply he could have right now. Oh my god. And of course, if he threw down another macro hatch or something like that, I mean, easier said than done. But just to put it into perspective, that if he's still maxed here, his opponent's still 131, he's still killing off valuable units such as sentries, then this game is already Rhett's. Strategically, Rhett has outplayed State this game. But macro-wise, well, part of this also is that Zerg macro is simply harder than Protoss macro. Not to take anything away from State, but if Rhett had kept that macro up, this game probably ends here. So, I like this chasing after that Colossi, seeing if you can get. If you get a free Colossi kill, that's pretty huge. But he might lose a big chunk of his army too. Look at that. Huh. I'm a little bit surprised how that all actually ended up going down. This group of units fighting the Stalkers, totally fine. Whatever. I mean, you're going to kill off the Stalkers. If he gets a Colossus or even 2 of these roaches, that becomes huge. Now, he doesn't know where observers are, but he's not really... Is he about to burrow? Is that what's about to happen? It might be. But I feel like with just Zealots warping in, and he has 2-2 on these, I'm surprised he didn't try a little bit harder to kill these, and he decided to turn around instead. It's a little bit surprising. So yeah, not really utilizing burrow at all. Of course, he doesn't know exactly where observers are. He might know that there's one right here. Good moves by State, though. He's holding this off really quite well. And okay, so Red does end up getting at least one of these. And it looks like he will barely not kill that other one. Okay, so these Hydras are being left to die unless some more units get down here very quickly. Of course, they can't retreat. You may as well just have them attack. Let's take a look at what else Rhett is doing right now. Looks like he's about to transfer some drones down to his gold base. Smart move. He definitely needs to get drones down there. Let's take a look at that drone count again. 77 against the 78 probes of State. He is starting the +1 flyer attack. Now, is this for Mutalisks or is this for Corruptors? I would say that Corruptors could be a decent choice right now, but I would not be surprised if Rhett goes into Mutalisks, just because if you look at this, basically his opponent has already lost all his sentries. He's focusing so heavily right now on Colossus, and in fact, if he's making more Colossus now, which, well, Rhett was over here, he saw both these are spinning. If those are both Colossus, which they are, that's a ton of gas. How many Stalkers is he actually going to have to help out with the Mutaswitch? What does he have to help out with the Mutaswitch? No cannons in the main, not even any pylons in position yet. Nothing here. Not much here. Single cannon, really. No Templar tech. He does have the +3 attack, which is very helpful, but that definitely could be his thought process here. Of course, he can stay on Corruptors if he wants to just stay Roach Hydra, which I think is also a great choice. Rhett's actually in a very good position here, even though he's lacking some larva. You know, he suddenly has the Spire up, he has that +1 going. He's going to be in good shape to switch around if he wants, but especially having all the sentries dead already, Roaches are going to become very, very powerful. If you don't have any sentries, Roaches are amazing. So let's take a look exactly what Rhett wants to do here. So he does clean this all up. More Roaches coming down, but I mean this is a hard thing to actually deal with. I mean, the 2 Colossi dealing ridiculous amounts of damage with that +3 attack. State having just enough to hold him off. Yeah, well, okay, so this is kind of an interesting spot because State is going to be cost efficient here. He has to be. It's the only way for him to stay in this game, to be as cost efficient as possible. And there's a lot of ledges here, so he might be able to do a very good job against these Roaches. So what's interesting is, what is Rhett going to do with these? What is he going to target? Is he going to chase down Colossi, hoping that he gets them before they get to the high ground? How is that decision-making process going on in Rhett's head? Let's take a look again what he's doing. Looks like he's sent his drones down. He may have misclicked them, though, because it looks like these are misclicked and not going to mine, which actually will hurt a lot. Has he decided to throw down any sort of macro hatchery? No, it looks like he just wants to use this as his additional hatchery. Has a queen on the way. Everything rallied down. And he is going Corruptor. Not a bad choice, again, because those sentries are dead. You know, Roaches can really get in there, and then all that's really scary is the Colossi. So having some dead supply of Corruptors after you kill them, not a huge deal. So let's take a look what he's going to do with these. Now this is some nice micro so far by State. Notice he went up and attacked, and then Rhett takes all his Roaches from here, has to move them down and move them in. The Zealots are already here trying to deal some damage, and he has some sentries. He just warped in more sentries on the high ground, so that's a really good choice, because again, these Roaches are going to kill everything without those sentries there. So let's take a look where State goes. I think we're just going to see him run up this hill, because you know he just needs to get them out of vision. Uh-oh, looks like he will lose one. The force field's just a little bit late there by State, but good choices overall on how he's trying to deal with that. He can't lose this base. He has to defend. Trades a Colossus to defend. You got to do what you got to do. So, all right, we do have Thermal Lance on the way and a couple Colossi, but 8 Corruptors on the way with the +1. And does he have any Corruptors out yet? Nope, he's got them just on the way. The probe count has surpassed the drone count, but State has to take another base for that to matter, because he's going to mine out very soon. In fact, he doesn't even have all his patches as main, so he actually has too many probes right now. It's actually a waste how many he has. But of course he has those because he wants to take a 4th base. Taking that 4th, though, is going to be the difficult part. The sentry count is very low. Let's take a look. 4 is just the units overall of State, very, very low. Yeah, Rhett doesn't have the most units, but as far as the composition goes, Rhett's composition is very nice. Be interesting to see if he actually makes any more units out of these Robos. Switching, as I said before, with 2 Robos, you can switch into Immortals when your opponent starts to counter with Corruptors and stops making Hydras. Remember, he lost all those Hydras. Hydras are good against Immortals. Now that they're dead, are there any Hydras left on the map? There's 1 Hydra left on the map. Doesn't matter. A switch over to Immortals, like a very swift switch over to Immortals, like Chrono Boost out 4 and go attack, would be just an outstanding move against this so heavy Roach play. Rhett is staying almost pure Roaches, which can be smart when you kill off those sentries once again, but we'll see. Let's see what they do here. And he's actually going to stay on Colossus for now, which is fine. You know, if he's going to put all his money into these Stalkers, try to push forward and take another base, it's going to be difficult. especially with all these corruptors coming in. But we'll see how it works out. Good moves right now. Rhett, I guess, doesn't realize that there's an observer right there. Just kind of healing up his roaches a little bit. Staying very, very stalker heavy. That's exactly what he has to do. Ooh, this is going to be kind of interesting. I don't think that I like this, what we're seeing from Rhett. I get it. He's like, alright, my corruptors just popped out. Let me go kill the Colossus count before everything gets too high. But the fact of the matter is, if we look at exactly what this area is, you know, for units, let's take a look for state. He has 4 sentries, and the 4 sentries is going to be awesome. These 2 pylons here, though, are the most interesting part of this battle. You never see a battle exactly like this. These roaches are going to come in, and the thing is, he has to get close, because these corruptors are going straight for the Colossi. So these roaches should not be on attack move right now. It looks like they are, but I'm pretty sure that Rhett will not kill the pylons first. He'll probably want to run around, because if just the corruptors are attacking the Colossi, he runs Colossi backwards while he targets down, focus fires down with his stalkers on the corruptors. So what you want to do is have your roaches in there, have them making the best surface area you can, have them drawing shots and whatnot, so that the corruptors don't die quite as quickly and they can go ahead and kill off the Colossi. At least at these numbers, that's normally a good move. So I gotta slow this down. Let's take a look at this battle. Okay, so he is actually attacking these 2 pylons. Now this is a bit sloppy. If he continues to attack these, then State is, as I said, going to run these Colossus away and just target down Corruptors. So let's take a look. Oh, he's not even going to run them. Okay, there we go. Now the roaches are coming up. Now, this is a tiny choke point because of these pylons. If these pylons aren't there and that cannon wasn't being made and everything, then he can have a nice surface area like this. Watch my mouse. Like that. Look at that. How amazing that would be. Instead, what we have is him going through this tiny choke point, and what that's going to do is bunch up all the roaches even more. Now we have 4 Colossi with +3 attack, attacking all these roaches, and just slaughtering them off, just completely killing them. In the meantime, the Corruptor count has already been reduced. You know, those roaches already were attacking this pylon. They already dealt a lot of damage to it, and of course, we have these all shift-click to kill off Corruptors, because all he needs to do is keep these Colossi alive, throw up 1 to 2 force fields in this Protoss-made small choke, and he's going to hold. So let's take a look. So it looks like at least 2 Colossi are going to die here. And I mean, that's how good Rhett's unit composition is against this even, keeping everything alive pretty darn well. But it looks like State will hold through something that, you know, on open ground, absolutely he would not have. And, oh, he actually ends up getting 3 Colossi. Well done by Rhett to get those 3 Colossi. That's a pretty powerful move. But now the supplies, relatively even. We have, you know, 152 to 127. Now, Rhett has a lot of minerals, not a lot of gas. Let's take a look. He hasn't been mining from those with gas for too long. But with that ton of minerals, we do have a few injects more have been missed throughout the game. You know, just slowly but surely missing injects here and there. It's just kind of how Zerg rolls nowadays. But, you know, of course, if he can spend all of his money, he's kind of bought a lot of Corruptors already, which makes sense. You know, State is continuing to produce a lot of Colossi. Those are really the backbone of his army right now. But anyways, let's take a look. I mean, Rhett is just going to have a hard time actually refilling all these units, even though he has the money. Yeah, see, his supply 164. And State's army starting to look a little bit more decent, but his economy not looking so good overall. He's obviously has too many probes in here. He has all his mineral patches just basically dying off. In fact, he needs to transfer some probes out here. This is not completely saturated, whereas both these bases are oversaturated due to missing patches. So State's going to have to push up pretty soon here. And he basically has 2 choices. 1, kill timing. And if he goes for the kill timing, he's probably going to try to get up as high as he can in supply, whether that's 180 or 200, and move out. Other than that, he has to move out and make a new defensive position, whether it's like right here. Maybe he uses the Nexus and it's right in here, but this is basically where he's going to have to take the 4th. He can't go anywhere else. He has no mobility at the moment. Rhett has complete and utter map control. So those are the choices left to State. We're going to have to see what he wants to go for, because Rhett finally going up to that Hive Tech, and with that Hive Tech, he is going to basically have the clock. He's going to be able to say, okay, Broodlords are on the way, you have to come kill me, or you're going to lose. Alright. I like these cannons a lot, and just to go over why, Cannons are going to add a lot to this group of units. You know, he's low on gas. He's very low on gas. It's all about minerals. Right now, Zealots no longer matter. Like, making Zealots aren't really going to do anything. It's not something that are going to scare the huge roach numbers at all. They're basically not even going to tank very well because of the numbers of units that we're seeing at this point in the game. Now, if Rhett does another attack into these 3 cannons, it's going to be really bad for him. These cannons can be targeted on Corruptors if he wants, keep those alive a little bit longer. It's just extra hit points. Again, the choke point still remains on both sides. So State is doing this just so that Rhett basically can't attack him right here. And if Rhett can't attack him right here, that means that he can actually get a big army. So it looks like State has kind of decided that it's very likely that he needs to do some sort of kill timing, where he tries to have a sick Protoss Death Ball and actually move out and kill Rhett here. So let's take a look. As those warp in, he's going to feel very, very safe. A lot of Lings on the way for Rhett, just because he has a lot of minerals right now. And finally, Rhett's starting to take some more bases around the map. One going up there. Does he have any? Isn't told any to go anywhere else, it looks like yet. All right, let's take a look what else is going on for Rhett. Just the Hive. No, of course, he can't get those upgrades yet. Getting the melee attack, though. That's a smart move. You know, that's going to go on Broodlings as well. And of course, Zerglings becomes something that you're going to want to use a lot more of late game as the Colossi count disappears. For State, he's still going for more Colossi. So yeah, this is looking more and more like it's going to be a kill timing. If he just keeps making Colossi as 5-6 Colossi, and then he's trying to fight against mass Broodlords, you know, of course they clean up the ground forces very quickly, but does he have enough gas to have enough units to deal with that, plus spines and stuff like that? It becomes a little bit messy. So again, I'm led to believe that we are going to see State try to kill Red eventually here. Oh, I love this right here. Trying to be active with his Stalkers. Anything and everything will help right now. And State is willing to trade Stalker shields, obviously, to kill off some roaches. Because how much speed does he actually need right now? The answer is basically none. He's not really doing anything. He's sitting here creating Colossi and hoping to get a strategic victory with the strategy of getting a bunch of units and going out to attack. I do like this. You know, he is sending some Zealots around to try to do some damage, which is really cute and nice. But just going up here and using some extra APM with a unit that can absolutely get away every time against someone that doesn't have infestors, it's a really good choice. And in fact, Rhett coming in here into the cannon area right before they're finishing up. So the cannon's not being quite as useful as they could have been. Now we do have 4 Colossi out, a 5th one on the way, a lot of Stalkers. Do we have any sentries? We do not, unfortunately. The 4 Zealots, though, are up here. And the fact that Rhett is attacking means he's probably going to lose his drones and his queen at this base. I imagine he will be able to save the hatchery. It takes a while for him to kill everything here, but they do have +3 attack. So this is probably going to be a game-defining moment. Is Rhett going to be able to reduce this to nothingness? Is State going to be able to reduce this to nothingness? And, I mean, if both occur, it becomes a really weird game. So those cannons getting there right before they warp in is good timing. And he is reducing that Colossi count to the point where I see almost no way for State to even have an idea of how to come back. I mean, with just that, I mean, his unit count is going to be 0 Colossi and just a bunch of Stalkers with +3. Red already has 2-2, his Hive on the way, he has more bases. Of course, the Zealots have dealt a good amount of damage here. Looks like they killed off a good amount of the drones. Did definitely get the Queen as well. So this little Zealot pressure that went on, smart move by State. I really liked that a lot. But it looks like, you know, hitting in here and hitting there before the cannons, not letting State actually be cost efficient anymore, not letting him keep his Colossi count high. There's no late game units left for State. So we should see him die pretty quickly here. Not sure that we're going to see anything else too interesting in this replay. Some really nice micro. But, I mean, at this point, Rhett he has everything, man. State just going to start attacking Stalkers. He knows the game is basically over. Did he even make another Colossi? No, he went for those Immortals. And he's actually making a Nexus. That's kind of cute. But I don't expect this to actually be able to do too much. You know, the 2 Immortals will help out a ton against the Roaches, but the Lings You know, the AI, it's hard to make these guys actually attack the roaches when all the lings are up front and these guys are not. And if they're up front, the lings are hitting them. It can become a little bit difficult to do. So, you know, he's trying to make something happen here, but with that Greater Spire almost done, there's no way in hell that this base will ever be held. Really nice force fields. I love that he mixed in some more sentries again. But the sentries, are they going to be good against the Broodlords? No, not really. So what does State have working for him here? If he, I mean, he is obviously still trying in this game, even though it really looks pretty hopeless at this point. Well, here's what he has going for him. He does have some banked minerals. He has 1,000 minerals and 300 gas. That's pretty decent. You know, he does have a reasonable supply, 139 against 163. So, I mean, if, let's say, for instance, Rhett banks up all his money and then just sits there with this set of corruptors and turns them into Broodlords, like out here somewhere, okay? If that happens and State goes and hits a timing attack at the same exact time, all these corruptors are dead weight. So we have 9 corruptors that are dead weight. That's 18 supply. If we take 18 supply from that, it's, you know, they're very similar supply. If we look at the drone versus probe count, okay, overall they're pretty similar supply in actual units that will matter for the next minute or so. So this gives him a little window where his immortals are super strong. And in fact, if we look at Rhett's army, 22 roaches and 31 lings. He does have 18 lings on the way. And he's about to get that +1 attack, which is going to help. Now, there's no real anti-ling here. We have sentries that used up all their energy. Then we have a couple zealots, which will do very well against the lings. But immortal's terrible against lings. And, of course, the stalker's terrible against the lings. So this is really the last chance for him. But, of course, there are going to be a lot of lings out there. The exact standing army of Rhett may have a hard time against the exact standing army of State if he micros very well. But again, the sentries, no energy, it's going to be difficult. So we'll see if he actually tries to move out. Because if he doesn't, I mean, this base just cannot be held against Broodlords with, you know, a unit composition like this. In fact, he's making 2 more Immortals. Immortals not so good against Broods. So we'll see. He has those 2 popping out. Let's see what Rhett is going to do here. He does have that additional base up. And those 2 Immortals are going to pop out in a second here. And also he's going to finish another upgrade. Kind of nice, but doesn't look like it's actually going to matter. Alright, so the Broodlord's on the way. If these finish, the game is over. I mean, that's just, there's going to be too much crap on the ground for him to deal with. And now he's even warped in more sentries. And I mean, sentries are great, but against Broodlords, they don't become quite as useful. They're going to be great against the ground army. Now, if he wasn't morphing these right now, if these were still Corruptors or something, if Rhett hadn't gone up to Hive, then with this current army State has, he can kind of crush through this stuff. It's not really much of a problem, but the Broodlings should prove to be way too much. And Broods should come out in just a second here and clean this up. I don't think that there's anything else to go over too much. Seize the Broodlings. This is, we'll fast forward this a little bit. Yeah, what are you going to do, man? That base was never going to be held. And I think we're just going to see a GG in a second here. No? Oh my god. What the hell? This replay is a lot longer. I cannot wait. Alright, so we have to actually take a look at what's going on now. This looks like such an unlosable position for Rhett. Well, State has a lot of Stalkers. It looks like we have a huge clump of Rhett's units over here. He's kind of on attack move. His Broodlord's left a little bit alone. The Broodling's going to help out. Blink was just used, so it looks like he's sniping a few of these. I can't believe this replay goes on. I'm trying to figure out how possibly this could happen. But here's definitely part of it, is that all these units are over here. Now, there are force fields, but really, you can never leave your Broodlords alone. That's the easiest way to lose a game as Zerg. In fact, when Zerg gets up to Hive and gets Broodlords, the way that they lose almost every time is that those Broodlords get killed. All you have to do is kind of keep units always around them. But it looks like, well, he is going to bring them over. So the game will go on. I can't believe it's that much longer. I don't know what the hell's going on here, guys. Another 8 minutes. But, alright, so this was a nice move by State. Rhett is basically at this point saying get out. That's what his play is saying. Obviously, he's not a rude guy. He wouldn't say something like that. But That's what this means. He's just kind of attack moving with everything he has. Because let's say, what is the absolute way to play against what just happened? If you have Broodlords and your opponent you just killed his only base, I mean, yeah, there's still this base, but he knows that this is basically dry. Rhett has a gold base and another base. What's the best thing to do after killing this gold base? Pulling back, defending, getting more units. Because you've starved them out. When you're ahead, get more ahead. So how can you get more ahead here? If he's killed this base, well, push your creep a little bit more, throw up some spine crawlers, get more units, start another upgrade, do anything like that. But this is basically, hey, I'm playing on the ladder, dude, you're dead, like, just leave, you know, I'm attack moving. So that's why this game is actually involved a little bit more, because Rhett is not obeying the rule of when you're ahead, get more ahead, because he has certainly killed State here. Just take a look. It's kind of fun. I want to see what actually happens in this time. Some more Broodlords are on the way, but his army is not so good now. I mean, when you take this small army, in fact, he's bringing probes. That's funny and cute. But yeah, I mean, imagine if he had pulled back with all his units and then added in everything, and then he's sitting there maxed, and State has no expansion. He's throwing up spine crawlers. What does State do then? I mean, does he start sieging the spine crawlers? No, man. The Broodlords start attacking. What do? Blink into the spine crawlers and then all the units come out? Nope. Pretty game ending there. I just want to finish this, sorry. I really do want to see what this looks like at the end if State wins this somehow. And, well, he's doing a good job, man. This is so funny. So, State at this point, long distance mining from the gold there. Looking kind of crazy. I'm going to do a little talk about when you're ahead, get more ahead after this, because this type of game we actually should never see. This is, I mean, State stayed cool and tried to win the whole game, which is really cool, and Rhett didn't, which is kind of dumb. But, you know, it's just a matter of caring a ton even during games you've already won, and people should leave. He's making observers, that's interesting. Rhett's just trying to mass up units. I mean, that's what you're going to have to do here. He's making his Roach Horn as far away as possible, just using up every larva he can for additional units, realizing, uh-oh, I have to actually try to kill this. I think he's actually going to end up losing this somehow. He has a lot of roaches, but it looks like we still have 3 Immortals and Force Fields with an Observer, so this actually looks like it will go to State. A nice flank, though, by Rhett. Immortals being worth ridiculous amounts. $11 more roaches on the way. Rhett might just crack through here. And yeah, it looks like just barely Rhett will end up finishing him off. Alright, so we just have a group of Blink Stalkers left. Made more sentries, that's smart, good way to use his gas. Ooh, I love that. Basically what we saw just right there was he force fields, he tries to bro move away, he force fields where they're going to get up to run quicker, and Blinks on top. Very nice moves. Really good force fields. Uh-oh. Just not enough damage here for State, it looks like. Crazy, crazy game. A lot of fun to watch. Alright. So that is that about that game. And let's go ahead and talk just a little bit. And let me go over some things as well, because I know a lot of people in here are like, oh my god, like, Protoss Imba, etc. And that's actually not what went on here. This, one of the most basic and powerful rules of StarCraft is when you are ahead, get more ahead. Uh, when should you actually be trying to kill your opponent? Well, there's a lot of times. Like, if you're doing a cheese, yeah, you want to kill him. If he's been unbelievably greedy and you don't kill him, he's going to get ahead. Like, let's say he, just to dumb this down to the easiest things to understand, let's say that Terran goes 2 command centers before his barracks, and you've already made a gateway in your cybernetic score. You need to attack him. You need to do that. And not just attack, you probably need to go kill him. You can't just let him sit there on 3 bases and mine up. You have to do something about it. There's times to go kill people. But when you get way ahead, you want to get even more ahead and make it impossible for him to come back. Because in a lot of situations, there's a chance of comeback. And if you attack into small choke points against Protoss, he is going to use force fields and splash damage and blink stalkers, and he is going to murder your army, and he might come back. And State almost did. Rhett had a basically unbeatable position there, but he started attack moving into that area that I've gone over 1,000 times on Antigua Shipyard, where it divides your army up. You know, his army gets divided, his broodlords get out of position, blink under occurs, he loses broodlords, force fields occur, his units don't attack. If after he kills that gold base, he keeps his clump together, moves it back a little bit, re-macros up, he's looking at a Protoss that's almost mined out of his last space. So all Rhett has to do is make sure that he doesn't get a base. He just makes sure that State can't expand, and the gold base is the only place that State has any chance of expanding to. So if he stops expansions that location, he's fine. Other than that, he just has to stay alive. He can make spine crawlers. Excuse me. He can throw down just a bunch more units. There's no like void rays or anything on the map, and no money to make them. He can make more broodlords to add into his army and just make this composition that State can never stop, and State can never take a base, and that's how you win. You starve them out. I know it's flashy and fun and fantastic to go ahead and just attack move to end the game, and that's what he was trying to do there, but it results in things like that, and that results in people saying silly stuff like, oh, well, Protoss must be imbalanced if he almost came back from that, easy mode, LOL, and stuff like that. But that's just not the case. That's not what went on in this game. It was Rhett getting sloppy because he knew he already won the game. He's like, listen, I've outplayed you for a while now. I'm way ahead. You're dead. Get out. Attack move. And all players do that. I'm sure that State does that on the ladder when he wins games sometimes. And that's an issue, and that's actually something that people need to fix overall. So definitely, it's just something I wanted to go over there. And, well, it looks like the hour is just about up now. So I think I might have to do the replay pack again tomorrow. I am going to be on tomorrow doing the Artosis Hour once again. So make sure you do tune in. By